Right, good evening everybody, and welcome to a Wednesday night City Council, which is quite unusual for us. You see a slightly shrunken Lord Mayor in front of you, but there we are. So I have a couple of practical issues to highlight. We have no fire drill planned tonight, so if there is a fire alarm, please make your way out of the building in a calm and orderly fashion as guided by staff. People with mobility issues should gather in the foyer on the left-hand side as you leave the chamber, near to the balustrade, where assistance will be provided. Toilets are at the far end of the corridors, either side of the chamber. Ladies to the left as you leave, and gents to the right. Now, I'm just going to ask you, please, if you would speak very clearly into the microphones. I gather there are issues when it goes out and is broadcast on YouTube, and sometimes people can't hear. And as I'm very elderly, I don't think I was here. So if you could make sure you're speaking into the mic, that would be wonderful. We have apologies from Councillors Wright and Haynes. So we'll continue to item 2 of the agenda, declarations of interest. Now, I understand that Councillors Stonnard, Kendrick, Driver, Calvert, Price, Oliver, Kidman and Peake have been issued with a dispensation from either a previous monitoring officer or the current monitoring officer to allow them to take part in the vote and discussion on item 6, the Council's 2024-25 budget and medium-term financial strategy. Please, could those members raise their hands to indicate that this is the case? Thank you very much. Are there any other declarations of interest? No? Thank you. So we'll move to item 3. Item 3, questions from the public, and we've received one public question, and the question is from Ms. Morwenna Hitch. Ms. Hitch, would you please ask your question? Thank you.
Thank you. My question is, as part of work to decarbonise properties owned and managed by the council, will communal heat pumps be considered for areas where multiple residential properties on the same road are owned by the council?
Thank you. And Councillor Hampton, will you please give your reply? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. The Council is committed to decarbonising for homes that it manages and already seeks to replace failed gas and solid fuel heating appliances with low carbon alternatives where they are suitable for property type. A number of factors influence the type of low carbon systems that are installed, and these include the number, location and tenure of homes, the expected remaining life of the home, the suitability of the property for installation of large heat emitters, pipework and a heat interface unit, the available space for the communal heating arrangements, and the level of resilience required to provide continuous heat, as well as the condition and remaining life of the existing heating equipment. Hybrid systems are currently being installed in a number of homes where the domestic hot water has been decarbonised through the installation of an air source heat pump water heater, with space heating now provided through efficient electric heating. The Council will continue to engage with manufacturers and monitor the availability and reliability of emerging technologies to ensure we provide affordable, low carbon heat in the homes that we manage.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hitch, you are allowed one supplementary question. Do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll move to item 4, which is the minutes of the last meeting. I call upon Councillor Stonnard to move the minutes of the meeting held on the 31st of January 2024.
Formally move, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I call upon Councillor Galvin to second the minutes. Seconded, Lord Mayor. Thank you. We will now move to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. So that's wonderful. So we'll move to item 5, which is the Local Council Tax Reduction Scheme 2024-25, and I call upon Council... Oh, sorry.
Thank you, my apologies, Lord Mayor. Could I ask if any indication of whipping has been made by any of the whippings, please?
I'm certainly not aware of any. Are we? No, not aware. Thank you. So, I call upon Councillor Giles to move item 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Since the coalition government took the decision to abolish council tax benefit in 2013 for those of working age, a number of local authorities have introduced minimum council tax payments for their most vulnerable residents. I am proud that this Labour-led administration has consistently retained our 100% council tax reduction scheme. Over 100 years after the first Labour government, after 14 years of Conservative governments, the differences in life chances between rich and poor are almost as great as they were 100 years ago. Infant mortality rates are 4.6 per 1,000 in the families of manual workers, compared to 2.9 times per 1,000 in the families of professionals. The average disposable income of the highest paid 20% of the population is almost 6 times greater than the average income of the lowest paid. Residents looking for work who are unwell and or have a disability need support, not additional stress. We know that problem debt can increase the likelihood of financial exclusion, family breakdown, and poor physical and mental health, putting further strain on public services later down the line. This authority will not put administration and staff costs into chasing after small sums of money they simply do not have the means to pay. This paper sets out how this Labour administration is raising the CTR applicable amount for CTRS claimants in receipt of legacy benefits in accordance with CPI, ensuring that claimants do not lose out in real terms. We will continue to retain our local discounts for care leavers, single occupants taking in a refugee, and second home discounts for those required to flee their main home due to domestic violence. For legacy benefit claimants, we will continue to use our discretion to disregard housing costs and the 2-child benefit cap for the purpose of calculating income. Bevan said the religion of socialism is the language of priorities. Whereas in Norwich we offer 100% council tax reduction for the poorest, in Great Yarmouth, a Conservative-led administration, you can only get up to 75% off your council tax bill. This illustrates how this Labour-led authority prioritises supporting the most vulnerable. That is the difference Labour in power makes. I'm glad to have the unanimous support from the cross-party CTRS working group for the proposed scheme. The Conservative-led Norfolk County Council, when consulted, proposed reducing the scheme to a 75% one, reducing our £16,000 maximum savings level to a proposed level of £6,000, and limiting CTRS eligibility to those in properties no higher than Band D. This council has, after the required consideration, rejected these proposed amendments. The scheme, as proposed, will cost Norwich City Council an estimated £1.24 million in 2024-25, a £60,000 increase on 2023-24. Budget estimations are difficult this year because of the planned migration from housing benefit-only claimants to UC from June this year. It is, as I'm sure Councillor Kendrick will highlight, only possible to retain the 100% scheme because of the prudent financial management of this Labour-led City Council. The detailed recommendations are as set out in the recommendations for the paper. I'm proud to propose this scheme and happy to take any questions once other people have spoken.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I call upon Councillor Carrington to second the item.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Like all members in this chamber, I came into politics because I wanted to serve our citizens, stand up for my community and change our city to build a better Norwich. In my professional working life, I work as a social worker, and if there's one thing that my years of experience have taught me, it's that while people have choices and power, the level of this is so very often determined by factors they frequently have little control over. And let me tell you that the most corroding, the most damaging, and the most soul-destroying reality that my clients and many in the community I represent face is that of pervading poverty and its costing, searing consequences. I'm stating again something which I know we all know, but it must be stated again, and it must be stated forcibly. Poverty is a killer. In the midst of this despondency, I cling to the hope and the knowledge that we can help. We, despite all the damage to local government, still have the power to make such a difference to change lives. The Council Tax Reduction Scheme represents that physical manifestation of policy into practice, whereby we exclude those poorest in the community from paying council tax, which we know they simply cannot afford to do. The Council Tax Reduction Scheme caseload, as of the 1st of February, is 12,749 of our citizens, of which 79% are in receipt of 100% award. This policy limits poverty and can, taken together with other social measures, help stop absolute poverty. It is the product of political willpower and choice. We choose to spend money here, but not somewhere else. This is politics in practice based on priorities. By voting for this policy tonight, we're helping to stop the grinding, searing destitution which scars our fellow citizens. Would it not be better to live in a world free from poverty, where access to work which prevents it, a social security system maintains protection and dignity during difficult times, and access to health, housing and education are accepted rights and norms, rather than something we bizarrely debate and constantly fight for? So with that in mind, let's build that better Norwich by taking the single step this evening to vote for this policy and keep on changing and protecting lives. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I second this report.
Thank you very much. I will now invite group spokespersons to speak. Councillor Fox, please.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'd like to thank the officers for their work on this, and thank you, Councillor Giles and Carrington. Poverty is indeed a killer. The Green Party always welcomes measures which make our society more equitable, and I support this move to continue to give those who are financially least well off in our communities the maximum council tax reduction. 13 years of Tory austerity has left many people making choices between heating and eating, and choosing to continue to offer the maximum council tax reduction to those that need it is the only right and humane thing to do. We mustn't rest on our laurels though, because even with these reductions, more people than ever are having to visit food banks and are having to sit shivering in poorly insulated, unheated homes. And of course, not everyone's been struggling over recent decades. Last year, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and his wife had an estimated worth of £529 million. So those imposing a cost of living crisis on the rest of us are still heating their swimming pools, while on average, at least 25,000 older people in the UK die prematurely from cold-related illnesses each year, and Britain has one of the worst winter death rates in Europe, even compared to much colder countries. The Equity Trust reported that between 1990 and 2022, the wealth of the UK's billionaires skyrocketed by over 1,000%, ballooning by around 600 billion. And between 2020 and 2022 alone, billionaire wealth increased almost by 150 billion. It's sickening, it's disgusting, and it's wrong that we have pensioners freezing to death and children suffering from rickets in our county, while others are living the high life and dancing on the graves of the poorest in our society. Council tax is a regressive tax. It increases that gap between the richest and the poorest, with wealthier individuals with high house values like Rishi and those billionaires paying proportionately less, and the tax burden, as usual, falling disproportionately heavily on lower income households. That's why at our annual conference the Green Party proposed a tax on the wealthiest 1% to fund investments in renewable energy and home insulation. And this levy could raise 70 billion, benefiting both energy costs and emission reductions, reducing people's energy bills and relieving a lot of that financial pressure. So I hope that the Council will also do all that it can to support retrofitting and home insulation to go further to lighten the burden for people in Norwich. It's also why the Green Party proposes to introduce a new land value tax that would replace several existing taxes, including council tax, to create greater equity in the system while ensuring that everyone has access to essential services. Because of course, people who do pay council tax don't want to see fly tipping or rubbish blowing about on the streets, as so many Norwich residents currently report. And they don't want to wait for over a year to have repairs like those to the lights in Haslip's Close and Greyhound Opening. So I hope that Cabinet will also consider ways that we can offer a better service whilst also offering these exemptions, such as exploring the efficiencies that bring an NCSL back in-house could offer. That said, I really welcome and support this continuation of the council tax exemption scheme, and look forward to the day when we have a more progressive government that abolishes this regressive tax.
Thank you very much. Councillor Davis, please.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. The continuation of the 100% council tax reduction scheme for our most vulnerable citizens is not just a policy, it is a declaration of our values, a mirror reflecting our commitment to fairness, compassion and social justice. In the fabric of our society, there are those who, through no fault of their own, find themselves in dire financial straits. The continuation of this scheme is a tangible support that embodies our collective resolve to ensure that every citizen in Norwich has the support they need to live with dignity. The benefits of this scheme extend beyond the immediate financial relief it provides. It's about building stronger, more resilient communities. By alleviating the burden of council tax for those in need, we enable them to invest in their health, education and well-being. This, in turn, reduces the strain on other services and fosters a cycle of positive outcomes for the individual and the community alike. Critically, the continuation of the 100% council tax reduction scheme is a sound investment in our community's future. It sends a powerful message that we are a city that cares, that prioritises the well-being of all its citizens and that understands the value of compassion in governance. I'm sure my fellow councillors unanimously support the continuation of this vital scheme. Thank you for your attention and your compassion.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Ludwig, please.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'll keep to the report. I am, and my fellow Liberal Democrats I know, are also pleased to be part of a council that has a local tax reduction scheme, and one that retains a maximum 100% reduction. By doing so, this council continues to support the most vulnerable residents of Norwich from going further into poverty and building up council tax debts. I would like to thank Officers Neville Merton and Tanya Bandiker and members for their work to update and modify the scheme as in the recommendations of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just looking around to see if, yes, I can see Councillor Sands and two Councillor Sands and Councillor Fulton McAllister and Councillor Prinsley and Councillor, thank you, Kidman, and Councillor, your name has gone, Maguire, Councillor Thomas, and Councillor Peake. I'll come over to the other side, as it were. Right, okay. So we'll begin with Councillor Mike Sands, please.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. We've had 14 years of Conservative rule in Westminster. I'll spell that with capital C-O-N. That is 14 years of cuts to council budgets and to services, and 14 years of cuts to benefits. Benefits that are there for the most vulnerable in our community and those on the lowest incomes. Many will remember the disgraceful Benefit Streets documentaries screened in the first few years of Tory government, which were there to revile benefits recipients and to justify government cuts. Year on year, there have been swinging cuts to the revenue support grant. This has resulted in many councils having to cut back or cut altogether their local council tax reduction schemes. I'm very pleased to say that prudent budget management and stewardship of resources mean that Norwich City Council is able to maintain 100% support for its local council tax reduction scheme. Taking into account the Equality Act of 2010 and the Care Act of 2013, the Child Poverty Act of 2010 and the Housing Act of 1996, Council has been able to support vulnerable adults and families with children who have, through no fault of their own, have restricted incomes and been unable to pay council tax. Under the obligations of the Armed Forces Covenant, the LCTRS, along with the Armed Forces Gateway, has applied to ex-forces personnel living in our community also, who have been unable to meet council tax. And I'm glad that Councillor Fox mentioned Rishi Sunak. I understand that despite sanctions, he still has major investments in Russia. And last week, his tax returns showed that he paid only nominal tax of 23%. I therefore commend and fully support Norwich City Council's local council tax reduction scheme as outlined in the budget presented this evening. Thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll move to Councillor Sue Sands, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Over the past year, rising prices have put increasing pressure on many people. Our council tax reduction scheme will help those who are in difficulty, especially because of the cost of living crisis that we all know so much about. Every one of us here represents a ward in Norwich and elsewhere. The council sets aside funds to specifically help those who are the least well off in our communities. It will ensure that they pay less towards their council tax, allowing them to keep more of their money. As part of our unwavering commitment to support residents facing this unprecedented cost of living crisis and worried about the very real increasing cost of energy and everyday living costs, we are proposing to maintain our already progressive council tax support scheme. People we help have limited or no savings and little to no stretch in their budgets to deal with an unexpected bill or an increase in an essential cost. Our council tax reduction scheme will make a big difference to the lives of so many residents during these incredibly trying times. Thank you, Deputy Lord.
Thank you. Councillor Fulton McAllister, please.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I just wanted to give a bit of a personal view on this situation, because I remember as a child that me and my sister would play a game of snowmen whenever it got frosty outside. We'd have to put on as many layers of clothes as possible. My parents would set up an indoor assault course. We were talking about how fun we found this a few weeks ago, and actually my parents explained to me that was something that they did because they couldn't afford the heating. It got me thinking about other experiences that I had as a child. During dinner time, my parents, my dad would have a bowl of soup, my mum would have a sandwich, we'd have a full meal. Ultimately, they couldn't afford to heat or eat. And this is the difference that a Labour council and that the council tax reduction scheme does make to people. In the 90s, there was no council tax reduction schemes, not until the Labour government came in. So this scheme will give the dignity that the poorest residents deserve, the dignity that my parents were denied. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Prinsley.
So at Christmas,
terrible poverty in both was highlighted in the national press with reports of rickets in a local school. Now, I'm a member of the Labour Party because I see it as the best way to promote political beliefs which are for fairness, equality, and above all, the alleviation of poverty and want. The council tax reduction scheme for households most in need is a brilliant example of what our Labour Council has been able to do despite the very great financial difficulties that have been created in our economy and our council budget by so many years of Tory chaos. At the hospital, the effects of poverty are plain to see, with poor nutrition, poor housing, both major causes of poor health. Surely, it is the business of politics to do what we can to alleviate poverty. Sadly, this has always been the case, but at least here in Norwich, we can be really proud of what our council is trying to do for those most in need. Our council has carefully stewarded our precious resources, and tonight we can choose wisely, act thoughtfully, and believe in the power we have to make a real difference to the lives of our most disadvantaged citizens. So I will vote to support this budget tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kidman.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. If politics is about the power to make choices, then there are a few policies which demonstrate this better than the power we have to deliver a 100% council tax reduction scheme. And why is this needed more than ever? Well, the answer to that is after 14 years of Conservative policies, the country needs change. The Tories have failed on the economy, failed on public services, and failed on raising living standards. As Rachel Reeves told us, it's worth remembering that if the UK economy had grown at the average rate of other OECD economies over the past decade, it would now be £140 billion larger, equivalent to £5,000 per household every year. And that would mean also an additional £50 billion in tax revenues to invest in our crumbling public services. Oh well, never mind, what's 50 billion quid? Working people are suffering the highest taxes in 70 years. Wage decline is the steepest for decades, and increased mortgage payments add to the strain of making ends meet. Thousands of people are being plunged into deeper poverty and look to those with power for solutions. Well, they won't find that from the Tories. We all know that. At a time of huge insecurity, the Tories believe in a stand-aside state, not one that backs working people. They don't get people's lives, what we're going through now, what our potential might be. They govern to serve their own interests rather than lift up our city or country. Norwich families on fixed incomes have to make stark choices between eating well and keeping a warm roof over their heads. The head of one of our infant schools cited low fixed incomes as one of the drivers of malnutrition in children that they see at school. Our council tax reduction scheme policy is not the only solution, and nor does any councillor pretend it to be. But this is a political expression of our commitment to tackle poverty in this city, lift people out of difficult situations, and make a practical difference to those with the very least means to pay their council tax. And if we pass this budget paper tonight, it will give a significant element of critical power and choice to people who benefit from it. So, Deputy Lord Mayor, I hope all councillors will vote for this excellent policy, and let's all keep on trying to tackle poverty in our communities.
Thank you very much. I call upon Councillor Maguire next.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Chris Bryant, in his recent book on conduct in Parliament, says, "Every MP I know went to Parliament for noble reasons. They want to change the world for the better." I think this is true for local government as well, and that is being ably demonstrated this evening as we appear all to stand together on a major point of principle. So I thank those opposition parties for their support and help for ordinary working people who continue to be disadvantaged, by the policies and act of the Tory government. Deputy Lord, even Scrooge had a change of heart in the end, but not the self-serving cohorts of Cameron, May, Johnson, she, whom I will not name, and most recently Sunak. We, as a council, stand strong on a basic moral principle. We believe that those affected by the nearly 14 years of austerity should not be pushed further into the ground as a wave of Tory legislation, which first began cutting its funding to local government, then passed legislation to reduce and remove a previous Labour commitment to reduce council tax, and then we can see now they're putting pressure on us through their supporters in Norfolk County Council. Reducing council tax to those on low income is the right thing to do. So many are in work but paid a pittance. That is wrong. But as a council that takes seriously its duty of care to the people of Norwich, we have to act. We have to do something. And we can make a difference. We can help families who are already suffering. I'm so proud of this council that we've retained the ability to reduce that tax to 100%, by 100%. The motion before us tonight is a measured, thoughtful one and provides an excellent framework for the future. It's also gratifying to know that more councils across the country are beginning to follow Norwich's lead. I believe there are 180 that do so now. And despite the view of the Conservative controlled Norfolk County Council, we are witnessing a changing political landscape across the country and within Norfolk. They might like to review their thoughts. Deputy Lord Mayor, this is the right thing to do. I am pleased and proud that a Labour-led administration has the courage of its convictions. I look forward to voting for this motion. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barr, and apologies that I just forgot your name earlier. Thank you. Councillor Vaughan Thomas, I think, next.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I've been a welfare rights caseworker for some 23 years, and I have to say things overall haven't improved. Over this period, we've seen the rise of food banks that didn't exist when I first started in the role. There have been a plethora of restrictions and cuts imposed by the Tory government, too many to recount here and absolutely far too negative to go through tonight. The City Council has been, and still is, battling against central government cuts that continue to this day. But Norwich City Council's local council tax reduction scheme for 24-25 is an exception to all this negativity. To hear that the City Council are proposing to retain the maximum 100% discount is a shining light amongst the miserable directives coming from central government, and is something we can be proud of. Last time I looked, Norwich City Council was the only district council across Norfolk to retain the 100% discount. Deputy Lord Mayor, this is no accident. The majority of the latter are not Labour councils, and it's clear that helping and support to the most vulnerable in society is not a priority for these councils. More especially, we read that Norfolk County Council does not support our sense of priorities and cannot support the City Council retaining the 100% entitlement for working age council tax reduction recipients. There is clear blue water between the priorities of Norfolk County Council and most every other district council across the county. It's not just clear blue water that separates us from Norfolk County Council and its coterie of like-minded district councils. Perhaps a better title would be Blue Meanies, when councils don't prioritise support for their most vulnerable residents. I'm pleased to read that the Council Tax Reduction Scheme Cross-Party Member Working Group voted unanimously to recommend the scheme 24-25 to Cabinet, and it's no accident either that there are no Tory City Councillors in Norwich. We are a left-leaning city, and long may it be so. My only proviso with this brilliant proposal is that there is a danger of taking this 100% discount for granted. I often hear that you don't really appreciate a thing until you lose it. Well, we cannot take this 100% discount for granted, and we should be shouting from the rooftops how we have retained this since the imposition of the scheme in 2013, when central government buckled under the strain of cuts to our revenue support grant over the years with no government funding for this scheme since 2019. For this coming year, we've managed it again. Future years, though, we need a change of government, a Labour government. I support this motion.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Maguire, could I just ask you to switch off your microphone, please? Thank you. Thanks. Councillor Peake.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I want to speak on this policy because I know the difference it makes. I was, as Councillor Carrington has described, one of these citizens which has benefited from the council tax reduction scheme, and its impact on me was enormous. I know the difference it makes to people every single day within the community I live around. In my life, I've experienced homelessness, unemployment and poverty. I've also experienced buying and owning a home, running my own business and working every long hours, often for little pay. Never fallen into the trap which the Tories project of thinking that these in receipt of a council tax reduction aren't one type of people. They are not. All of us, unless we are perhaps the Prime Minister and those rich multi-millionaires, project of thinking that these in receipt of council tax reductions are one type of people. They are not. Mine come about due to the Tories crashing the economy in the 1990s, mortgage rates doubling and not being able to pay to keep my home, and then unemployment rose. And when the business you can't see because nobody was money to spend. It's a story which is being repeated now, once again in 2024. When things like this happen, we rely on society to help you. I relied on access to housing and council, which has been provided enough and bold enough to build on it. And I relied upon a social security system I had to pay in since leaving school at age 16 to help me, and it did. This policy really does make a difference. It shouldn't have to exist, but in fact our Labour Council does. It shows the commitment we have to tackling poverty in Norwich. Vote for it tonight and we'll keep changing lives for the better. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Peake. Councillor Driver.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Mine is a bit similar to what everyone is saying, but for someone who's been on the council for a long, long time, 20 years and a bit more, I sat here when we had Tory members in this room and voted against this at budget meetings, and how disgraceful, you look at and find out what they're doing. I just want to congratulate the opposition for supporting this every year and voting, to vote for every year as well. That's a pity you don't vote for the budget every year, you usually stay, but it would be a lot better if you voted in favour of all that stuff every year. But I would like to thank the opposition as well. Norwich is a great place to live, and we should be able to look after our residents. I'm rich, very trick with my pocket, I'm rich. I said to my wife the other day, I've got a pair of jeans on, I always lay on the floor, and I'm people do this when I'm on the camera, on the telly. But sometimes I go out and there's a hole coming in my knee, and I think, Christ almighty, I just got an extra 30 quid on the price of my jeans. Because you buy a pair of jeans that have got holes in nowadays, they're worth a fortune. I can't afford jeans I've got holes in. Where I was growing up when I was a kid, I always had jeans with holes in. There was 4 of us, and then it used to go down to the elders, to the next one to me. Then after me, my younger brother got new stuff again. I could never work that out, but I used to stop at me, so I had a bit of a always have done that way. But this council tax reduction scheme, it's lots of money. Like anything old £1 or £2 a week is a lot of money to get over the whole year, and families are really struggling out there, and they don't need to struggle. We need another government to come in to change all the way social security works down. I've just been hit with it because my wife was older than me. She got a pension. The government took all my credits away completely. Work tax credits are gone, everything is gone, council tax is gone, everything, rent rebate is gone. My wife got actually 700 quid and the government took 900. I thought that's a good deal, that. And I can't wait till I retire properly in a year. So I can't wait another year. Good job I've got support behind me that I can survive. A lot of people in my situation have not got that support, and we really are campaigning to change the way that these benefits are actually handed out to people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Driver. Thank you. Have I missed anyone who wanted to speak and hasn't had the opportunity as yet? No? Thank you. So, Councillor Giles, would you like to respond? Thank you.
Thank you to all colleagues across the Chamber for the unanimous support for this. Particularly want to thank those members who've drawn on personal life experiences in their speeches. Very brave to do, very moving, and I think illustrates how powerful this is. And 100 years after the first Labour government, it's fantastic that this Labour-led administration is continuing to make choices which prioritise fairness and equality in this city. But nonetheless, we welcome the unanimous support across the Chamber. I would like to thank all the staff in our benefits department for all of their fantastic hard work in delivering the scheme, implementing the scheme, and I hope everyone will vote unanimously in favour tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. So we'll now move to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. That's a good outcome, I think. So we'll now move on to item 6, the Council's 2024-25 budget and medium-term financial strategy. Now, amendments to the budget have been received from Councillors Osborne, Davis and Lubbock. These have been circulated, and the proposer of the item has indicated that they are willing to accept these amendments. If no other councillor objects, these 8 recommendations will become part of the substantive item. I therefore call upon Councillor Kendrick to move item 6 as amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. This is my 8th budget speech before this council. Yet this year, the entire local government sector is facing the worst financial crisis that has hit the local government sector. It comes after 14 years of Tory austerity and cuts in real terms in central government revenue support grants to local councils. The result has been a growing list of local councils having to issue Section 114 notices declaring that they cannot meet their revenue spending from the resources that they have. The result is that government commissioners have come in and take over the running of those councils from democratically elected members. The level of council tax is raised by about 10% by government order. Those councils can borrow, but I stress borrow money from the government. This has to be repaid. For example, Thurrock, an area with real social problems, 35% of the money they raise from council tax simply goes back on repaying the loan back to central government. A survey by the Local Government Association showed that 1 council in 5 expect or may or will expect to issue a Section 144 notice in the coming financial years. 3 of those councils I have had the honour of previously serving upon. Hastings Borough Council, East Sussex County Council and Kent County Council are all facing serious financial problems. That shocks me, especially in regard to Kent County Council, so remember how large its asset base once was. The Tory Minister in charge of shortchanging the local government sector, Michael Gove, tells local councils that they should use up their reserves, which can only be used once. Anyone with even the most basic understanding of finance would understand that to use up your reserves to cover revenue spending will in a few years face ruin. Michael Gove, who during the Brexit debates once said he was tired of listening to experts, shows his ignorance of local government finance. However, it's thanks to the good financial management of Norwich City Council by this Labour administration, I can say there is no chance of this council having to issue a Section 114 notice the next financial year. We will not be cutting into our reserves. There will not be the levels of cuts now seen sadly as a norm even in Labour councils at this time, let alone the savage cuts planned by Norfolk County Council. In these challenging circumstances, I am pleased to propose a balanced budget for the financial year 24-25 without use of reserves. Suite of reports presented sets out the position across both the Council's general fund and housing and revenue accounts, covering both the revenue and capital expenditure plans of this administration. While the medium-term financial strategy highlights that there are further savings to be made across the remainder of the medium-term financial strategy, this isn't necessarily surprising given the uncertainty about local government funding, continuing and growing pressures on local authorities for services, inflationary factors, impacts upon the funding of services and the imminent general election. We do not know what a future government may seek to achieve, but we can be confident in that this City Council has a record of good financial management and prudent decision making, which is reflected in a balanced budget without the need to draw upon reserves, a healthy balance sheet and strong returns on its prudential use of cash balances. The local government's financial sector has now been finalised and confirms its council will receive an additional £193,000 from the government enforced to take heed of evidence provided by lobbying groups, including the district councils network. Turning to our own proposals, the Cabinet is recommending a 2.99% increase in our share of council tax, which is below the current level of inflation and essential to maintain services both now and into the future. Precincts for the Norfolk Police and Crime Commissioner stands at 4.28% and the Norfolk County Council at 4.99%. Both will be added to the amounts that the City Council collects, and I'm sure you will all agree that an annual increase on average of £8.63 that the City Council is proposing provides excellent value for money for our residents. The extensive demands of maintaining our substantial housing stock and providing more homes into the future means that we will also need to increase our housing rents and service charges in line with the rents setting standard. 30-year housing revenue account business plan highlights the need for this investment, and that this council will be delivering. Councillor Beth Jones, who will be seconding the budget, will go into further detail. Whilst these additional resources will be made at the final settlement are welcome, overall the settlement delivered an increase in the core spending power of 5.7% compared to this financial year. There continues, however, to be a challenging financial outlook for local government in the medium term. Our prudent and effective financial management control, however, has provided a solid foundation from which to build. However, we must not be complacent, and there will need to continue to maintain these high standards in order to balance the medium-term financial strategy. The development of the new corporate plan demonstrates how the Norwich City Council has been getting ahead of the curve. This already reflects the objectives set out in the new requirements for local property plans, which need to be approved and published by July 24 in order for local government to receive the additional funding guarantees. Local government continues to await the revised funding regime, whether for council tax or business rates, to bring our funding arrangements into the 21st century. In the meantime, we take the opportunity to propose recommendations that will increase our tax base, measures designed to bring empty homes back into use and ensure those with second homes in the city contribute a fair amount to the provision of services in this city. Both of these measures are aimed at meeting our goal of a fair and Norwich for all. The latest budget management report considered by the Cabinet recently indicates that there will be no overspending in the current year, and we are on target to deliver 93% of the savings targets agreed for that financial year, an exceptional achievement, particularly in the context of so many local authorities who are struggling to balance their budgets or having to issue Section 144 notices. We are proposing savings of £3.7 million in the coming financial year, £1.7 million coming from previously agreed proposals, with the remainder coming from new proposals. I am delighted to announce that this budget delivers investment through our capital programme of almost £50 million investment in the general fund activities and a further massive investment of £181 million for housing schemes over the next 5-year period. Further investment will be added to support our corporate plan priorities when it is published, and I look forward to bringing that more good news at that time. Already the Cabinet meetings held to finalise the budget, a further investment of in excess of £1.2 million in our parks and open spaces was announced, and our successful Levelling Up funding bid will deliver almost £10 million of further investment to this city. It is likely that there will be further changes during the course of the current financial medium term, but not least in consequences of the general election which will take place during the next year. But we also hope to reflect a multi-year financial settlements to to support longer-term financial planning and fairer funding for all authorities without having to rely upon the sticking plaster of funding guarantees, which is sadly necessary while adequate funding mechanisms have been absent. Despite the consequences faced, this Council has been able to propose a budget that requires no additional service-related savings proposals, does not require the use of one-off reserves to fund ongoing expenditure, while establishing a strong foundation for future service development and improvements linked to the corporate plan. Our Chief Finance Officer has clearly stated that the budget estimates are robust and the Council's reserves retained are sufficient to cover our surpluses, funded by earmarked reserves, and unexpected shocks funded from the Council's General Fund Reserve. Both the General Fund and Housing Revenue accounts are above the proven minimum levels to accommodate the risk of range of risks. May I thank our financial officers, and including our Chief Financial Officer, for the work that they have done. And I think that we as the Council can be proud of this budget. And I'm sure that in the circumstances we all can agree that this budget delivers for everyone in the city and should be approved by all of us. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I call upon Councillor Jones to second the item.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Proud to be seconding this budget this evening for the next financial year. As Cabinet Member for Housing, I'd like to focus obviously on the Housing Revenue account, and in reality quite a significant part of this budget, and realising that fitting actually what we cover in housing into a 3-minute speech is quite a challenge, so I'm going to focus on a couple of areas. As we move into the new financial year, we have a new set of challenges for the HRA, along with business as usual, and our continued drive to improve the services we provide. We've got the regulator for social housing introducing a new 4-year inspection regime for all social housing providers. The powers of the Housing Ombudsman are being expanded, and further forward on the horizon there'll be the new decent home standard. But we welcome, and I have to say we embrace these challenges, as we feel this provides the rigour that the housing sector requires to improve the quality of homes it manages, as well as having a wider impact on improving the wider private rented sector. This budget provides for the additional financial burden of meeting the regulator's emerging inspection on civil services. We are already responding to new requirements to involve residents. This is very much a work in progress, as it is for all social landlords. We have ensured through this budget that we have appropriately skilled and motivated staff to deliver the services the Council believes its tenants deserve. At the same time, we have over 4,000 households on our housing register who also need our support. Through the hard work of the housing team, we have the lowest level of street homelessness in the county, and we are significantly backing the trend nationally in this area. Congratulate the housing team, our committed partners such as Pathways Team, St Martin's and others, who should be rightly proud of the role they have in this, and this we need to continue to support financially going forward. This budget sees us continue our focus on homelessness prevention, linking in with our wider partners across the city. But we must do more, and that's why we continue to be one of the few local authorities with a building programme, having our sites and providing more homes in the next few years. Over the last year, we have continued to deliver high-quality affordable housing to meet the needs of our residents, and our ambition continues. We've taken possession of 42 new council houses at 3 Store, built to excellent environmental standards, with handover remaining 34 expected in early months of the new financial year. Coming up, we will have the construction of 14 more affordable homes to commence this summer at Argyle Street, and the recently submitted planning application for the first phase of Mark Cross development will, if approved, provide more affordable homes to our residents. We will continue to look at every opportunity to provide good quality housing for those most in need in our city. That's why we continue to work in partnership with organisations such as Orwell and St Martin's, allowing them to use our land to deliver both general and much needed specialist accommodation. The housing budget has a continual focus on reinvestment to maintain quality standards as well as health and safety standards. Whilst I previously reported our success in satisfying the housing regulator in relation to Jones,
could I ask you to draw to a conclusion, please?
Health and safety, we will continue to invest in an area as we cannot stand still. This budget brings our 30-year investment strategy that will focus on investing in existing houses, maintaining high standards, increasing energy efficiency on a journey to net zero and delivering new homes. Hope you can all support this budget tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now invite group spokespersons. Councillor Galvin, please.
Thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'd like to start by thanking officers for preparing the budget, and I would like to thank leaders of every party here for the way the budget amendment process has been approached this year. I think it's resulted in some clear gains for the council and the city. It's the first and very, very welcome. Due to having high cash balances, the council profited from unexpected interest rate rises in the past budget years, meaning we have had an underspend. Without that, the picture could have been very different now, as it was in early September 2022, when there was a £6 million hole. The Conservative government has been, as we've heard, on a campaign to decimate local services since it took office, and we cannot see the back of them too soon. On a personal note, I decided to become a Green Councillor at the beginning of the austerity programme, so I'm really looking forward to that ending. And I decided directly because I saw Labour standing by and doing nothing for several years at the point where the Conservative and Liberal Democrat coalition started their cruel programme. In these stormy times that we live in now, it's more important than ever that we work closely with residents and run a tight ship. At present, that ship is in some disarray, as I will outline. Firstly, there's a lack of a plan here tonight. The budget papers state that the corporate plan should be the basis for how the council spends so that it meets the priorities of residents. Yet this year, for the first time, this budget has been set with no corporate plan in sight, although it was published this afternoon to scrutiny. It seems the Labour administration are losing the grip on running the council in that way. The slippage is not acceptable when spending taxpayers' money. Green councillors submitted their priorities for the corporate plan months ago, yet it seems Labour have been unable to do the same. On to the second sign of disarray, the inadequate consultation. Organisations have told me that they felt the recent corporate plan consultation, for which the council paid £68,000 to consultants, was superficial. Embarrassingly, I've had this raised with me by a leading local charity who said they were interviewed once via Zoom in a workshop with 5 other organisations, asked just 3 questions and have heard nothing since. Meanwhile, for the budget consultation, response rates have plummeted to only 281 people. That is less than a quarter of the average of responses that we've seen over the last 6 years. It seems that the efforts of councillors, despite the efforts of councillors, the council is failing to engage with the public that we represent in a meaningful way in this most crucial of the council's functions. In the third area of disarray, there's a serious problem with metrics and planning around spending. In November 2022, a sudden announcement was made of a £100,000 Love Norwich fund to tackle the mess of flighting and littering across the city, something that Green Council has been raising consistently for at least 5 years. In theory, this was good news. 1 year on, and still our residents' bins are still overflowing, fly tipping is at an all-time high, the streets are filthy. Where's the £100,000 gone? There's been no metrics and minimal checks or balances to make sure that taxpayers' money is being spent effectively. And now it seems history may repeat. At the February Cabinet, a report was presented again verbally, proposing over £1 million for parks. Again, in theory, it's very welcome. However, there are questions to be asked. How much community involvement has there been? Why is the parks audit still not being shared on which this amendment is based? And why has there not been a written report detailing how the money will be spent, when, and what the outcomes will be? A story of organisational chaos with information hidden and delayed and decisions put off and no clear outcomes set repeats again and again. Green councillors would prioritise accountability and transparency and do the basics of running the council well. We will vote for this budget because we're pragmatic and recognise that a budget has to be passed. Be in no doubt that this is the chance for the administration to turn around. We know that this budget comes at a hard time, and we're more than ready to work together positively for our citizens and our city. I really hope this council can get back on track, the leader gets a grip, and this disarray ends today.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. The budget proposals before us are the culmination of rigorous planning and analysis, for which we thank officers for all of their hard work. They include critical investments in our general fund, housing revenue account and capital programme. These investments are pivotal for the pivotal for the progression and well-being of Norwich, reflecting our commitment to fostering a city where people can live well and independently in a diverse and safe environment. Our budget must be robust under scrutiny and prudent to minimise risk, while allowing us to deliver the maximum benefits to our citizens. I'm satisfied this budget, with all accepted amendment, goes some way to meeting this aim, and I'm reassured by the Chief Finance Officer's statement of support in the face of significant challenges. We thank the Labour Group for accepting our amendments and welcome the positive new spirit of collaboration that appears to have flourished following our decision to become independent. Long may it continue. However, although the independent group will be supporting this budget, it is imperative to voice our reservations concerning a vital part of the process. Transparency is the cornerstone of trust and accountability in governance. It empowers our citizens, fosters inclusivity, and ensures that decision-making processes are open and accessible to those we serve. Criticisms regarding transparency are not merely procedural concerns, but are reflective of a broader need for enhanced cross-party and open public engagement in how we conduct the affairs of the Council. We have found today, for example, as the consultation for Eaton and Waterloo Parks were due to close, that Inclusive Norwich were not consulted as a relevant stakeholder group, and the consultation has had to be extended by a week as a consequence. Despite repeated requests, opposition members have not received a line-by-line breakdown of the budget or any information about the Future Shape Norwich programme. That would have enabled us to properly analyse the figures and develop further proposals that we believe are necessary. I feel certain that had we been given sight of a complete budget breakdown by department, rather than the limiting headlines published in today's report, the independent group and the Green Group could have provided further positive, in-depth budget improvements to help resolve some of the major challenges or potential catastrophes that this council is facing now and in the coming years due to ongoing austerity, specifically in housing and environmental services. All such further input could have helped to strengthen the council's position in continuing uncertain times. There is more this council can do. Accepting the budget today is a testament to our responsibility towards ensuring the fiscal health and prosperity of our city. Yet it is equally a commitment to addressing the shortcomings in our processes. We should acknowledge that while we strive to make decisions in the best interests of our constituents, there is always room for improvement in how we involve them and their representations in these decisions. As we move forward, we must pledge to enhance and update our practices. We must commit to a more transparent, inclusive and participatory approach to government. By doing so, we not only strengthen the legitimacy of our actions, but also enrich the fabric of our democracy. In conclusion, the Independents will be supporting the adoption of the 24-25 budget, but with a clear and unequivocal call for measures to enhance transparency within our council's operations. This includes better communication of our decisions, more opportunities for public consultation, and a commitment to openness in all our endeavours. Only by doing so can we truly serve the best interests of all of our citizens, genuinely support the local economy, and ensure a prosperous and a bright future for Norwich. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Councillor Ludwig.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to thank the officers, particularly Neville Merton and the administration, for this balanced budget that the Liberal Democrats certainly will be supporting. I also thank the administration for their acceptance of the Liberal Democrats' amendment. I hope this shows a new purpose of cooperation in the coming year. And I do agree that there are reservations about the Council's consultations. I mean, looking at the questions to Cabinet members and also the questions from the public recently, there's often been the issue of not enough consultation, not enough thorough consultation. And it's something I think that the Council should look at very carefully. And even sometimes consultation with councillors themselves. We seem to sometimes get missed out that something is going on. And certainly with short 2-week consultation with Eden Park Play Area, it was over before I realised it was on. But that has now been extended for another week. But it wasn't good enough, really, that not enough. It wasn't even on the council's website under consultation. So there are shortcomings. I agree with the previous speaker on that. But despite that, and a few other niggles here and there, I say I'm very pleased, as are the Liberal Democrats, that you've accepted our motion to our amendment to reinstate the Tourist Information Centre in whatever form that comes, whether it's online or in person. And I do, as I say, hope that this is the start of more cooperation with opposition parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I can see Councillor Sands and Councillor Giles and, sorry, yes, okay, yes, I've got you. And yes, Councillor Hampton, I'm not very good at this, I'm not quick enough. Kidman, Councillor Sue Sands, Councillor Fulton McAllister, Councillor Prinsley, Councillor Carrington, Councillor Stonnard, and
sorry to interrupt. There are people on
I know,
the side,
sorry, I started.
We could move to the vote. Somebody could move to the vote.
Right,
so
okay. I'll come to you now, and I'll come back to you in half a minute, if that's fair enough. Okay, so Councillor Hirschner and Councillor Champion, Councillor Catt, Councillor yes, Price? Have I missed anybody? Anybody else from the Greens? And Councillor Stuteley, Councillor Osborne, anybody else? Okay, so, yeah, still, yeah, coming back to you, Councillor Maguire, Councillor Padder, 2, Councillor and Councillor Giles. I think I've got Councillor Giles. Anybody else? Oh, Councillor Packer, haven't got you. Councillor Oliver. Right, that's probably most councillors now. Yeah, it would have been much simpler. It would have been. So in the interests of fairness then, I'm going to begin over this side and take 2 or 3 from this side and then move round. I hope that's acceptable so that people feel they've all had a chance to speak. So I will begin with you, Councillor Hirschner.
Thank you very much. I would like to start by thanking the officers who have worked so hard on this budget. But I would like to share some concerns about the Treasury management strategy specifically. So hopefully they can be taken on board going forward. Now it's great that the Treasury management strategy mentions ESG considerations, that it mentions ethics, but I think we could go a lot further in placing them at the centre of our Treasury management strategy rather than at its margins. Now, we know residents want to know that their council tax is not invested in fossil fuels, that it's not invested in weapons, and they've made that clear on several occasions in this chamber. We know that there are constraints when it comes to finding a banking partner under procurement legislation, but the same isn't true for investments. We have a lot more leeway to choose who we invest with. It's great that we have 10 million invested in a sustainable deposit with a Standard Chartered bank. That's really great, but why? What about the other 97 million? There is a growing demand and growing provision of sustainable and ethical investment opportunities. For example, lots of universities have recently moved their investments to ethical and sustainable providers, including UEA, and I guess we're all aware of the constrained financial situation UEA is in. If they can move their money to a sustainable investment provider, I guess we should be able to do that as well. But instead, among the financial institutions that we are currently investing with are 2 among the top 20 funders of fossil fuels worldwide. I understand that Treasury management is complex and we need to take responsible decisions, but responsible also means responsible in terms of the impacts of our investments on the climate and on human security. So I hope that going forward we will be doing all that we can and more than we are currently doing to get on top of ethical and sustainable investment, that we reach out to other councils to learn best practice, that we learn from other people's examples, that we seek out revenue management advisors with particular expertise in ethical and sustainable investment, and that we will lobby the current and future potential Labour government to reform the financial industry so it stops wrecking our climate and communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll call upon Councillor Champion next.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I just wanted to speak briefly on the consultation. As when we were looking through it, when I was reading through the figures, I realised that only 281 people had participated in the consultation this year. Over the last 6 years, on average, it's been 1,140. This is a very significant drop, which is concerning. And I really feel it's worth highlighting that democracy isn't just elections, it's all the time between elections and the participation of people in government and their ability to participate. Many people have pointed out to me that they're not willing to sign up. They don't feel that they want to participate and get Norwich talking, that it's, they feel it's a firewalled method of participation. And in many ways, for the document that is before us, we didn't need to be gathering the data and asking people to be signing up to giving over their details and what have you. We could have had a far more inclusive consultation that I feel would have been far wider and had wider uptake. It's really important that we work on figuring out how to improve this. In addition to that, I feel that it really needs to, the data of the users, we don't need that data collected. But some of the data which we did collect in relation to who was participating was very telling, because over 194 people who did participate were homeowners, and it does reveal that the demographics of people who are participating in it, and in addition that 87% were in receipt of tax, council tax reduction. And whilst, and I didn't do a speech on the council tax reduction because it was so well covered by our friends across the chamber. But it is worth highlighting that the demographics of the consultation were poor, the participation was poor, and it is of utmost importance that we don't just fall foul of electioneering and making speeches for elections, but that we work hard to participate and engage with our communities. And consultations are a big part of this, and as has been highlighted in other speeches, sometimes people are unaware of consultations until thereafter they've finished. Today we're launching the climate change consultation, and no one is aware of it because we've done we haven't publicised it before the event. And so this is something which is important that we need to work hard on as a council, and I hope that our friends across the chamber will take advice and work with us so that we can be a collaborative and forward-looking council and do the best for the people of Norwich. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I just remind people who are going to speak that you have 3 minutes? Thank you. So I will go to Councillor Catt now, please.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'd like to thank all of the parties that took part in the budget process. As others have said, it's good to see everyone kind of working together and getting something out of this as well for the city. But it's probably not a surprise to people that I do want to talk about housing. So in the HRA, we see a 2.8 million rise in general management costs. It's a 17% increase. But we still see 1 in 5 homes waiting for repair. We have no idea how many of these are overdue, how much this is costing, both in terms of the repairs themselves, but also the impact that that's having on properties. We all know as ward councillors just how high the proportion of repairs that are overdue, how many appointments are missed, how many are completely cancelled, how many are poorly planned, or where repairs are delivered poorly in terms of their quality. where phone calls aren't answered, emails are ignored, and we just want to know how much money we're going to keep putting into NCSL for repairs that simply don't get done. We've asked this before. It would be great to have an answer. I've been told that the council doesn't have confidence in NCSL's ability to cope with the demand from a tenant-led reporting service. We've seen the Housing Ombudsman describe Norwich City Council as one of the worst social landlords in terms of the complaints that it's received. We've seen, a fire door programme that is constantly being kicked into the long grass every single time we ask about it, when there's residents that have been waiting up to 5 years for this. There's lots of issues with housing, and it's already been mentioned we have new strict rules coming in with the ability for unlimited fines to the council, with very, very much shorter notice needed for inspections as well. This puts the council under huge risks if it doesn't start to get the basics right, and that's just what I really hope that this administration can start doing this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Price.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. 3 minutes is just not enough to give the capital and commercial strategy the attention it deserves. So I'll read a few bits and give a few observations for your delectation tonight. 4.10, page 164, you've got the commercial property investment section. It says, because of changes to the treasury management and prudential codes of practice, the council will no longer be making new investments in commercial property, primarily for yield, where this would be funded by borrowing. Well, we all understand that, and I never believed that the actual legislation really entitled us to do that. Nevertheless, we did, and nevertheless, that has worked out to a certain degree for us, and that does, and the money that. But it's my turn to talk, and I'll tell you why you got lucky rather than planned. Okay. 4.12. However, the code statement that authorities must not borrow to invest for primary purpose for financial return is not intended to require the forced sale of existing commercial investments, whether commercial properties or financial. Selling these investments and using the proceeds to net down debt does, however, reduce treasury risk and is therefore an option which should be kept under review. Now, obviously, in the treasury management section of the document, we know that we've got two £50 million loans out maturing over the course of the MTFS, and I do think that we will need to pay due diligence to the commercial assets that we own during those 2 periods, because effectively, borrowing at the rates that we see today would certainly not be advantageous and create additional costs to us. You can only really work out if your assets are working for you if you've actually done the work and done the asset management strategy, and we'll come on to that in a moment. Moving further along, we'll go to 4.15 for a second. So we've got the council has agreed to the establishment of a commercial property earmarked reserve. The reserve is held to help mitigate financial risks of holding commercial property. This is very prudent, it's covered in TM, and we should be doing that because, let's be clear, investing, they say things can go up and go down, and there is volatility in the market, and some of our investments will be paying off, and some will not be doing the work that we need them to be doing, and we have to consider the risks that are associated with that. So that's very prudent. Capital loans, 4.17. The council will borrow funds at preferential rates to fund capital expenditure from the PWLB. Once borrowed, current capital rules allow these funds to be used to make capital loans to other organisations, including those that do not have access to the PWLB. Well, we are making those loans. Sometimes we're doing that through buying more shares, and sometimes that's loans. And we can see that there are loans outstanding to Lion Homes, or NRL as it used to be known before it was rebranded. And parts of this document does go on to say that we have to put more money aside because of the likeliness that they will not be able to repay that. So that can't be my 3 minutes. Bloody hell. Why did you suspend standing orders, guys? Very unexpected tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move to Councillor Osborne, please. I've decided, if it's okay with you, that I'm going to work back that way in the interests of, well, everybody should get a chance. Okay. So that's just the way I'm going to do it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, to speak, and thank you to the administration for accepting the budget amendments that we put forward. And in fact, all the budget amendments, I think, echo what others have said before about this being a good chance to be collaborative for the good of the city. Our budget amendment proposals on affordable warmth came out of the proposals of the cross-party task and finish group on retrofitting that met over the course of last year. And it also, of course, comes out of the work that Green councillors have done for many years, proposing measures for increasing retrofitting of council housing stock. We heard earlier today a public question on the need for and the necessity for moving away from gas and fossil fuel-based heating systems and towards heat pumps, cleaner energy, better insulation to reduce energy bills. There are three clear reasons why we propose this amendment, and therefore why I'm very pleased to see it in the budget. Firstly, upgrading council housing in the way that we propose is the best way of reducing energy bills permanently. It's the single biggest contribution that the council can make to addressing the rising cost of living now. I've seen that in Barnard's Yard in my ward, where to be commended, the council has ordered a communal heat pump which has reduced energy bills. There's lessons from other councils for doing that more widely, so we should be looking at doing that. We estimate that it's save more than £500 on council tenants' energy bills permanently. Second, we know that we're facing a climate emergency. Energy use in housing is the biggest source of carbon emissions in Norwich, so focusing on getting homes onto clean energy is the biggest way we can reduce that carbon pollution, and it means that we're looking to the future, which is the third reason why this amendment is important, because not only will it reduce energy bills for tenants in the immediate term, not only will it reduce carbon emissions, but it will set us on the right path. We know that national legislation is going to have to mean that we move away from gas, so this means that Norwich can be a leader by investing in decarbonisation, in the technologies and the installation that we need in council housing stock. It means that Norwich can be one of the places that other councils look to and learn from when they're considering how to retrofit and reduce the carbon emissions from their stock and reduce fuel poverty in the process. It's been really welcome. The council's committed about 320 million over the course of the 30-year HRA business plan for improving energy performance. And
finish, please.
But we need to see ways that money is going to be spent. So this is about making sure that the capacity is there to get that money out the door.
Thank you very much. And just in case anybody thinks my way of doing things is slightly odd, my way of doing things tonight is that many of the Labour benches over there spoke on the council tax reduction scheme, so it seemed fair really to begin and work round, but everybody will get a chance. Thank you. So I'll go to Councillor Stuteley now. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor, and thank you to officers for their work on this budget, and for all groups for supporting our amendments. The independent amendments to the budget are aimed at addressing three pressing issues: the rising cost of temporary accommodation, the need for enhanced licensing enforcement, and the untapped potential for income generation from our assets. Each of these proposals represents a strategic approach to improving our services and economic health, aligning closely with our responsibility to our communities and their expectation for sound financial stewardship of the council. Temporary accommodation costs. Firstly, we address the escalating costs and the often substandard quality of temporary accommodation. This not only strains our budget, but significantly impacts the well-being of those we serve. Our proposed aims to reduce these costs and improve living conditions through a one-off feasibility study funded from general fund reserves. This study will explore the acquisition of suitable accommodations such as modular housing or street properties, offering sustainable and cost-effective alternatives to the current practice. This initiative, coupled with a detailed business case and scrutiny review, promises strategic, informed approaches to this complex issue, with the potential for significant long-term savings and improved service quality. Secondly, the safety of our community members using bars, restaurants and taxis is paramount. Our current licensing enforcement must evolve to address the growing demand for consumer safety. By integrating digital solutions through the ongoing digitalisation of regulatory services, we can identify opportunities for improved efficiency and capacity in our licensing services. A scrutiny review will further ensure a comprehensive evaluation of potential improvements, incorporating feedback from key stakeholders, including private hire operators, hackney drivers, and licensed premises staff. This approach will not only enhance consumer safety, but will ensure licensing services are fit for the future. It is proposed that money will be used to recruit enforcement officers that can work within the late economy and the taxi and private hire trades to address some of the urgent, serious issues that have arisen. After 5 years of asking for this, I'm delighted that this will finally happen. And finally, income generation from wedding venue hire. We turn our attention to the potential for this through the strategic use of our assets, specifically targeting the provision of wedding services. By allocating a modest sum for a feasibility study, we aim to unlock the commercial potential of our wonderful spaces like this, creating a new revenue stream that can support our broader financial goals. This initiative represents a proactive step towards maximising the utility
Councillor
of our
Stevie,
assets.
can I ask you to draw to a close?
Okay, thank you, yes. Ensuring that they contribute to our fiscal health and the services we can offer. Thank you to all for accepting our proposals.
Thank you. I'll move to Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Yes, mine's very brief. It's with regard to consultation. It's plain really that we give adequate priority to recognising that technology is not the solution for everybody, and that we might be excluding people. So, for example, with our communications with residents, recognition that despite the fact we score relatively high for levels of digital skills for life in the county, there are some people who won't have access to IT, not consistent access to IT, and that could be for reasons of disability, financial access, even certain parts of the city when you're sort of moving through them, it's a complete lack of signal. And just particularly with regard to the consultation on Easton Park Play Area, I wonder if better communication might avoid such things as a playground is meant to be inclusive for everybody, but it's still on sand, and I don't know, if anyone's tried to push a wheelchair or a buggy on sand, and that goes for potentially children using the park, and also parents and carers. So yeah, just a plea for consideration of access issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stannard.
Took me by surprise, I didn't realise I was going to be next. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'd just like to make a couple of points just in response to some of the things that have been said. First of all, about the corporate plan, just to point out our current corporate plan is valid until 2026, so it's not the case that we don't have the corporate plan in place at the present time, and of course the successor has been published to scrutiny today, and that will go through a process over the next year, producing a business plan and aligning budgets, and that will take place by the end of this financial year. So just to make sure that's understood. And I don't know about you, but we hear about not getting the basics right, and we hear about overflowing bins, and we hear about fly tipping not being removed. Actually, I walk around the city and I'm seeing it looking a lot cleaner. I'm also seeing the fly tipping removed, most of it within 24 hours. And I'm feeling that actually things are looking a lot better, and I'm very proud of that, despite what others might wish to say about that. Now, against the backdrop of councils facing tough financial challenges, service cuts and even government intervention, this council is not only balancing the books but continuing to deliver on investment promises. Last year, we successfully closed a gap of £6.2 million between the funding received from central government and the approximate £109 million annual cost of supplying local services. So today's budget for 24-25 comes to you setting out how we'll need to continue shortfall this year of £3.7 million whilst continuing to avoid using any reserve funds. And it's a testament to the comprehensive long-term financial planning that we're not facing the fate of many other councils under Section 114 notices that we read about. And I think we shouldn't take that for granted. We've worked really hard over the last 14 years get into this position. And it's something we can be incredibly proud of. The Labour Party, the Labour Council is soundly managing the finances of this council, and that's something we could be incredibly proud of when you look around the country and when you consider some of the risks that the party opposite would take were they setting the budget. We're all feeling the rising cost of living and increasing inflation levels, and that's placed additional pressure on our finances. But apart from finding new ways of providing services which are more cost effective, we've also been successful in bidding for £7.6 million in levelling up funding. That's additional investment that the city wouldn't have otherwise seen. That builds on the existing £63 million capital investment programme that remains undiminished for 24-25. Alongside the continued commitment to capital investments programmes, the council has been able to make further investment, including £2.2 million to be invested in improving play areas and parks across the city, £160,000 on planning, developing and implementing approaches to reduce the impact of climate change, and £270,000 to support the delivery of comprehensive regeneration in East Norwich. All really, really high priorities for the future of the city. So I commend this budget to you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. There is much to commend in what is being proposed in the budget here tonight, and to be clear, it's down to sound management of council finances that allows this council to propose the measures it does. We've seen what has happened elsewhere, where councils have been forced to issue 114 notices, resulting in the most invidious cuts to services. Conversely, I'd like to comment on investment in the Mark Cross ward. Wenston Park, on the eve of its centenary, is benefiting from £85,000 funding. This means upgrading of facilities, the play areas, both the larger and smaller areas, alongside the substantial planting in the woodland regeneration project, which has increased biodiversity. A green flag application has been submitted for Wenston Park, working with the Friends Group. If granted, this would prove a fitting 100th birthday celebration. In Waterloo Park, there is capital funding for a new splash pad, part of a £250,000 broader play area upgrade planned there for this spring. Capital funding for new play equipment is also planned for Pointers Field, Peterson Park and Shorncliffe Avenue. This demonstrates our commitment to enhancing community spaces for residents, ensuring these are places where people can live well. These and other positive measures are due to our financial stability. In the face of 14 years of Tories' onslaught against local government, this is a considerable achievement.
Thank you very much. Councillor Packer.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. In relation to my portfolio, because of careful management of this council's budgets by this Labour administration, we've been able to invest in new systems that will enable our customer contact staff to better manage customer information across our multiple systems. Our work to continue improvement of the council's IT governance has resulted in a striking summary from the company auditing the council's cyber security, which stated, overall, in my opinion, Norwich City Council have a brilliant approach to cyber risk and are absolutely heading in the right direction while continually improving their environment. Looking ahead to 24-25, we are working on a number of projects to provide improvement for our residents. These projects include a new and improved council website, which will make accessing information and requesting services easier and more accessible. A customer communications review that will seek to review and update all of our customer communications in line with the Plain English campaign. And a new information and data strategy will provide an effective framework and governance for IT solutions and data, reducing risks of cyber and data breaches. Deputy Lord Mayor, the responsible approach taken by successive Labour administrations has put this council in an economic position that other councils can only hope to be in. The budget we are voting on tonight provides our residents with a fully costed, responsible approach to how this council can provide services which both enhance and change our residents' lives for the better. I'm pleased to fully support it.
Thank you. Councillor Johns.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. This is a budget which demonstrates this Labour-led administration's commitment to deliver on our priorities of stronger communities, a more equal society and enriched quality of life for our residents. Over the next year, we will deliver on the aims of our emerging parks and open spaces strategy. Our capital programme provides for £8.43 million investment in Slowbottom Park, £333,000 towards the pavilion at Eaton Park, £1.1 million towards new play equipment in 28 different play areas on a 3-year programme, £396,000 for an upgrade to Castle Gardens, £220,000 to complete the Earlham Cemetery railings replacement programme, £53,000 for new park signage. This budget also delivers a generous above-inflation increase in the precept for Mousehold Heath Conservators, supporting the effective management of our largest nature reserve. 20% of budget consultation survey respondents said parks and open spaces was their most valued service. This is a budget which clearly delivers on this priority, £9.969 million alone in capital investment in parks in 2024-25. The past year has seen us not only retain our green flag status for Eaton, Waterloo and Mousehold, but also achieve green flag heritage status in Eaton and Waterloo. Green flag applications were submitted in January for Higham Park, Wenston Park, Jenny Lynn Park, Castle Gardens, and a Green Flag Community Award application for Ketts Heights, where the current access project is nearing completion. Norwich is a fine city for parks. In addition to the 100% CTRS scheme we voted to keep earlier this evening, this budget makes provision for £177,000 grant funding to support advice agencies in the Financial Inclusion Consortium. We remain grateful for these organisations' fantastic hard work, providing much needed advice and support for our residents. We will continue to pay the real living wage to our staff and work with partners across the city to continue to increase the number of employers in the city paying the real living wage in Norwich. We will progress the EDI action plan this calendar year to sit under our new EDI strategy. Housing benefit subsidy shortfall for those in temporary and exempt accommodation continues to pose a significant challenge to billing local authorities such as ourselves. It is scandalous the government thinks it acceptable to reimburse housing benefit for our most vulnerable residents at 2011 rent rates. This budget makes provision of £2.1 million in general fund revenue funding to make up the shortfall between government subsidy and the actual rents of those in temporary and exempt accommodation. It is the right thing to do that we continue to support our most vulnerable residents with their rents.
Councillor John, can I ask you to come to a close?
The government must step up to address this growing challenge. Lord Mayor, this is a Labour budget of investment only possible due to prudent financial management. I hope it is a budget all councillors can unite behind and vote through tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hampton.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'm proud to be speaking to this budget as a Cabinet Member for Climate Change, a portfolio that now includes adjacent areas such as waste recycling, transport and parking and clean streets. These are all areas where there's potential to cut emissions, minimise our impact on the environment and make improvements on surrounding communities, all aims that this budget will help us continue delivering towards. Starting with climate change, and one of the things I'm most pleased about with this budget is that we've been able to put this forward as a growth area. The increased budget for environmental strategy will allow us to create a new role to lead our citywide net zero programme and develop the work on this that's already underway in collaboration with the Norwich Climate Commission and others. Additional funding will also be used for new net zero project roles and towards creating a detailed strategy and plan for a major retrofit programme across our social housing estate. As well as cutting emissions, cutting bills and improving living conditions, this retrofit programme, which already has significant funding allocated in the HRA business plan, will help grow the net zero supply chain in Norwich and be an important enabler of more extensive citywide decarbonisation. On clean streets, our Love Norwich campaign has driven forward initiatives to keep our city clean and improve people's local environment. We've reviewed our approach to tackling environmental antisocial behaviour and have developed new ways of working to coordinate action between services. This proactive approach has already made a real visible difference to estates and streets that have been targeted, and hopefully will help us realise efficiencies and savings in the future through reduced reactive work. And we've also invested over 300,000 in new vehicles, equipment and machinery for NCSL to allow them to keep the city streets clean, and we'll be investing in a new fleet of sweeping machines in the new financial year. On waste and recycling, we've continued to work in partnership with BIFA to deliver a range of leading recycling services. We're well placed to deliver the government's simpler recycling reforms, but we'll continue to review our services so they offer residents as many opportunities as possible to recycle and minimise waste while delivering value for money. On car parking, last year we invested 1.3 million in safety works at St Andrews Car Park, and this year we will be developing a strategy for all our car parks to make sure they are safe and accessible for users, as well as exploring renewable energy generation opportunities and improved electric vehicle infrastructure. More widely on transport, this year the priority has been holding County Council to account in relation to the performance of the Transforming Cities Fund and the unjustified decision they made to reopen Exchange Street to general traffic. We'll continue to push for sustainable, active transport schemes that work for this city. So to close, I'd just like to thank the officers involved for drawing this budget together. It's one I'll be really proud to vote for later this evening, and I hope all members across the chamber will be able to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fulton-McAllister.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. So when I joined the Cabinet only in December, Lucy had sent me an email asking me what I hoped to achieve over the next bit of time. I'd explained that some of our key aims were for regulatory services to expand enforcement teams on a self-funding basis over the next few years. I can proudly say that the budget sees funds realised for 2 new posts, an additional role within the corporate health and safety team and dedicated licensing enforcement officer. These new roles are paramount in keeping our staff, residents and visitors to the city safe, one of the most important duties we have as a council. We're partway through reviewing the taxi and driver licensing standards and our SEV policy. We hope these can be out for consultation by summer 24. We also will be ensuring that with our new licensing enforcement officer, we work to draw up a proactive enforcement plan with what can be implemented in all of our licensable venues and services. The work of our expanded enforcement team will essentially enable us to work flexibly across multiple regulatory service sectors with a focus on private sector housing also. That will enable us to start taking more action like we have at St Peter's House, but against smaller landlords, because nobody should be safe from the gaze of City Hall enforcing good quality private rented standards. Just because someone is a small landlord does not mean that they are exempt. In addition to this, we'll be rolling out a proactive inspection regime in all of our HMOs across the city to tackle the squalid living conditions that many of our residents are forced to live in. In Norwich, however, there is a housing crisis where rents and mortgages are increasing. The only way to tackle this is with a significant number of new homes built by both the council and the private sector. To enable this to happen, we have successfully introduced our own nutrient neutrality mitigation scheme based on water efficiency measures within our council housing stock, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This has enabled us to put forward plans for up to 200 new council homes in Mile Cross. Without our own nutrient neutrality scheme, we would have struggled to do this. In all, I'm happy to say that since taking up the Cabinet position in December, I believe I've exceeded the objectives I'd outlined to Lucy within my first email back to her. And I would very happily commend the budget to everybody here.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kipling.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's important to say that I'm very lucky to have my portfolio because it's incredibly close to my heart. I've always believed passionately that to create a truly sustainable society, the roles of arts and culture and steps to promote well-being are vital. But we also know that those with the smallest pockets and quietest voices often miss out. So my role is to challenge and change that. And that's what we're all here to do, after all, to change Norwich for the better. We're making powerful and positive changes to protect vulnerable people, but also to extend social justice through progressive, cultural and wellbeing agendas. The Norwich Health and Wellbeing Partnership, which we lead on, has recently agreed a spending plan and associated projects that will start next month. Interventions will focus on reducing health inequalities by tackling the social determinants of health at the earliest preventative stage. Priorities include hearing community voices, food equity. In line with our food equity priority, an initial meeting was set up with the infant school in West Earlham in response to reports of rickets. It was agreed that the Wellness on Wheels bus would visit the school to provide direct support. Interact is a service set up by Norwich City Council and key partners to help people whose wellbeing is suffering because of something linked to their housing circumstances. It won Social Prescribing Wider Determinants Collaboration of the Year at a recent conference, which is something to be very proud of. The co-chair of an all-party parliamentary group on arts, health and wellbeing stated that the term creative health has become increasingly familiar in the worlds of healthcare, social care and culture. Creative activities, from visual and performing arts and literature to cooking and creative activities in nature, all have benefits for our health and well-being. This budget will deliver a range of cultural and creative activities throughout the year, free for all, like the Lord Mayor's procession and Norfolk Black History Month and many more. We'll also be giving grants to organisations who will enable more diverse and inclusive audiences from Norwich to participate in culture and creativity and invest to respond creatively to the city's challenges, which include reducing climate impact, improving health and wellbeing and supporting creative businesses to succeed. And we're proudly working with our valued partners to complete the delivery of the Castle Museum regeneration, the halls and the other historic icons which Norwich people value and treasure. And finally, we have listened to residents through Creative City Compact's heavily engaged with online and face-to-face cultural survey. Deputy Lord Mayor, we want and need housing, but we also need Norwich, the sense of place, the heritage and culture for our sense of pride and for the key determinants of our mental well-being. This Labour budget will deliver it during these toughest of times. Please vote for it tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Carrington.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'm voting for this budget because it contains the measures which citizens in our city demand of this council. Let's cut to the chase and judge it by these simple questions. In the middle of the worst housing crisis since World War II, does this budget deliver new council homes, investment, plus resources needed to take on the ever-growing landlord class in our city? Yes, it does. And if in doubt, have a look at the animation which shows what Labour plans to build in Mile Cross. In the midst of rapidly increasing violence, the impact of County Lines activity, the exploitation of vulnerable people, together with antisocial behaviour and fly tipping, will this budget deliver more CCTV, alligates, communal door systems, services to protect survivors of domestic abuse, the start of a new community warden scheme and the ability of us to work with our community safety partners? Yes, it will, but it won't make up for the damage done to our police force since 2010 and all the other vital services which assist them, including probation, health, education and social care. And we're kidding ourselves if we think otherwise. Lastly, does it put the environment, both natural and man-made, at the centre, with a range of practical and positive actions that will create a cleaner city for all of us? It does, and the investment in assets like our award-winning parks, community facilities, such as the upgrade to the Greenfield Skate Park in Catton Grove, the historic buildings we treasure will make Norwich a better place. In this, it fulfils some of the needs our communities have, despite the savage cuts to local government budgets since 2010. To truly deliver, we must be given a structure that facilitates decentralising, taking back control, and empowering the people in this chamber to have the tools, powers and resources needed to respond to the demands and needs of our residents. This year there will be a general election, and I for one hope more than anything that power, wealth and opportunity will begin to return into the hands of the many, not the few. So on that basis, I will be happily voting for this budget as it will change lives and deliver for the people we are here to serve. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Prinsley.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Let me speak about what this budget will do for people and for the planet. Our council is tackling poverty. The Norwich Financial Inclusion Consortium is a collaboration between national and local charities. Shelter, Citizens Advice, Age UK, NCLS, Mancroft Advice and Equal Lives are all involved in the project. The consortium holds strategic partnership meetings to discuss barriers and issues affecting all of its members, such as the problems of universal credit. And I'm proud that the Council contributes £174,000 to support the Financial Inclusion Consortium, vital to ensuring people in our city receive top-level, safe advice and their legal rights are protected. Other councils just talk about this. We pay for it and rightly prioritise it. Our budget also commits to support for the real living wage, a campaign creating a new Norwich economy for working people, because breaking in-work poverty is vital if we're to tackle this injustice, and the work of the campaign group, led and assisted by this council, deserves real credit. And I particularly wish to commend Councillor Adam Giles for his real leadership on this. Our council is tackling homelessness. The multi-agency pathways scheme, the Labour Council's close, long-standing relationship with St Martin's and other trusted providers, has meant that the number of rough sleepers has gone down, not up, following the recent street count. If further accommodation is indeed built in this city to meet specialist need, this will only assist further in stopping this terrible predicament. Our council is addressing the climate emergency. Switch and save, heat pumps, solar panels, retrofit, building environmentally friendly council houses, planting thousands of new trees, investing in our parks and open spaces, so that they routinely win coveted Green Flag Awards, and they show what Labour and this council can deliver despite the toughest of times. Deputy Lord Mayor, in addressing the key issues around people and planet, this budget delivers powerful, positive and practical changes that help protect, change and enhance lives. Please vote for it tonight.
Thank you very much. Councillor Susands.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Firstly, I would like to thank the council officers for all their hard work over the last year in what have been difficult circumstances financially. It is heartening to hear that the council is committed to an affordable housing programme, and we only need to look to 3 and the New Mile Cross development to see the evidence of this. Also, on a personal note, the extra funding for Starman Road Playground will be welcomed by the families in the area. Along with the details of our proposals to balance the books for the coming year, it is only right that we acknowledge the unprecedented financial challenges being faced by all spheres of government and indeed right across the public sector. The additional financial burdens of the past year have been unprecedented. Inflationary and fuel price rises compounding the cost of living crisis impacting our day-to-day lives. A crisis that is also impacting the cost of delivery of our own council services and our ability to deliver our ambitious capital programme with escalating service and material costs. This council wants to inform our approach to council priorities and service delivery through genuine and meaningful engagement with the wide-ranging communities we serve, and the public budget consultation was part of that. This budget is about making decisions which are the safest possible in order to protect services. And it should be a case of conversation rather than confrontation and not opposition for opposition's sake. I will wholeheartedly be supporting this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Sands.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Councillor Kendrick said it's his 8th budget speech. Westminster seems to have had 8 chancellors in the past year alone. Lack of a corporate plan, a successful year of proven financial management would say otherwise. We can only be thankful that we don't have a Green-led council, otherwise it would have been Brighton Hove all over again, with rubbish piling in the streets, with the strikes that they engendered with their city services. What does the statement begin with on page 105? A forecast underspend of about 3.5 million. Does this mean we've not spent enough? No, this means a prudent management of fiscal resources by the council, officers and this administration. At a time when many councils have been identifying black holes, often huge in their budgets, where other councils have had to go into administration, our council has maintained a steady course, garnering resources, carefully spending where spending is needed. The local tax reduction scheme is an excellent illustration of this prudent policy. All this accompanied by a prudent, responsible and carefully managed investment scheme that has gained excellent returns and income from rents, leases and sales. Place this against a backdrop of cost of living increases, further cuts to benefits, inflation, though at 4% now, has been in excess of 11%, an increase in mortgage rates and financial policies of Norwich City Council are well justified. Even with the disappointing withdrawal of Western Homes investment in Anglia Square and the dismal approach toward this by Westminster, we can see that Norwich City Council maintains an even keel in otherwise stormy waters. This does not imply any sense of complacency or relaxation of prudent policies, but rather the opposite, a careful application of thought, research and approach to policy. However, Lord Mayor, most positively this budget passed this evening unleashes a raft of powerful and positive practical improvements for our citizens. New council homes being built, investment in our award-winning parks, more money to tackle crime and improve community safety in our communities, together with bolstering our capacity to better protect private tenants and tackle bad landlords. It does what you'd expect a Labour council to do. It changes lives and gives power, hope and opportunity into the hands of the many, not just the few. So with that in mind, I commend and fully support this budget tonight and hope that everyone will vote for it. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Quine.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'm so pleased to see this budget and its commitment to our biodiversity strategy. As part of the response to climate change, amelioration and reversal, there's already a huge commitment to spending, and this is in the face of Tory government's continued withdrawal of funding to local authorities, and especially to Norwich City Council. The commitment to spending doesn't stop there. For 2024-25, we're allocating an amazing £9.969 million. That's just under £10 million to the parks and open space across the city. I'm so proud to be a part of a Labour-led council that makes such a stand. I'm also proud of the high calibre of officers we have who work in a coordinated manner to optimise outcomes in achieving our Labour Council's business plan. Look, Deputy Lord Mayor, you might recall the answer I received to my question at the previous council meeting regarding trees. This amply pointed out their importance for the environment as a response to climate change and how important they are for our physical and mental health. This commitment, again, is one that our officers have bought into. In my own ward, Wensum ward, I have this week been given such an example. A beech tree had to be removed because of decay. This tree hasn't been replaced by one new tree, rather, preceding the removal was the planting of a group of trees, and these new trees will be further augmented by further planting into the area for the next planting season. We've also planted so far this year 332 trees on our own land. We're so good at this, we seem to be doing the work of Norfolk County Council in our securing funding for nearly 2,000 trees, mainly to go on county highways land, As a side comment, Deputy Lord Mayor, give us back highways and we do even more. Deputy Lord Mayor, it was only 18 months ago that Chris Packham congratulated Norwich's Council and their commitment to biodiversity, calling it top work. If only more councils could be as progressive and aware of the crisis and taking real steps to address it. This enthusiasm echoes that of our city's residents, who, in our consultations prior to this budget, rank parks and open spaces as our most highly rated service. Deputy Lord Mayor, this entire budget looks forward in order to protect and improve the environment of our city for generations to come. Thanks to this budget, which emerges from the work of the Labour administration, ably supported by its officers, Norwich is a haven of increasingly diverse flora and fauna. Our budget allows for the appointment now of a devoted biodiversity officer. Norwich is truly worthy of its reputation as a city inside a national park. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Padder.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor and officers for the work you put into the budget. Reflecting on my ward, Lakenham itself, I was delighted with the tennis courts upgrade at Harford Park last summer. This was a fantastic enhanced facility for our local community. I'm also very pleased to see funding secured in the budget for new area equipment at Jubilee Park, Lee Bridges Park, Harford Park and the Netherwood Green play area. Deputy Lord Mayor, this is a fantastic and much needed boost to local families in Lakenham and Tuxford. I am proud to speak in favour of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Vaughan Thomas.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. As a councillor who has the privilege of representing Mile Cross, which contains large amounts of our council housing, I'm particularly pleased with the way this budget balances the needs of the city to build more homes of all tenures with the critical demand of investing in our current stock. I think it's an interesting and important debate between the needs of both. Do we stop building and just invest, confronting the reality that the enhanced right to buy is shredding our stock of homes we build will be in the short space of time privately owned, with us just administering the housing benefit function of potential private renters to meet the demands of unaffordable private rent of one of our former homes. It's a terrible thought, Deputy Lord Mayor, but the reality is many thousands of our former properties are not lived in by tenants exercising their democratic right to purchase the property, but instead owned by often speculative landlords who now act to provide private housing at grossly inflated rent levels compared to social rent. Those councillors embarking on the journey to build mass council housing back in 1918 would have been horrified that the fruits of the labour and political willpower ended up being used in such a way. But I think we must be bold and we must take balanced risks. How can I look at people that approach me in my ward desperately waiting for council housing if we cannot have the courage to build and act to add to our stock of houses and create new communities? The solution has to be to build and back the builders like us with the courage to proceed, rather than being one of those politicians who always find reasons not to do it. So, if we are to build, then the opportunities contained in the Mile Cross depot site with the planning application coming forward gives us hope. If the planning committee vote for this, it will start the process of delivering the first phase of a new community and build on the Labour triumphs in Goldsmith Street, Bothorpe and other areas of Norwich which show the difference we make. There is so many other positives in this budget, but time will not allow me to go into further detail. With that in mind, and knowing that voting for this budget this evening will usher in new homes for our communities, I hope that every councillor will vote for this tonight. We need to get building.
Thank you. Councillor Viv Thomas.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. This is a budget where we've come together. It contains the hopes and aspirations of all councillors, and for that it should be respected. Within it is the capacity to develop, change and improve our fine city. and continue to use our political power for the good and well-being of all the citizens of Norwich. In addressing the needs of the people of Norwich, this budget delivers hundreds of new council homes, along with millions of pounds of investment in our current housing stock. It continues to improve and enhance our lovely award-winning parks and green spaces, enables us to continue to support our most vulnerable with a powerful social inclusion agenda and the continuation of our excellent council tax reduction scheme. This budget protects and enhances services for our citizens in the private rental sector, whilst ensuring that crime and antisocial behaviour is addressed, giving peace of mind to residents in their daily lives. This is a balanced budget, an incredible achievement given 14 long years of cuts and austerity and the hollowing out of public services. As we know, other councils have gone bankrupt, often due to factors they have had little or no control over. We are fortunate here tonight, with prudent governance, to be in a position to be able to make choices and set our budget in the best way possible for our city. People and the services we all need must come first. This budget has that at its core. With the general election looming and a real possibility of change of government, we must hope we will be given financial provision to deliver even more. Let us retain our Norwich spirit, stay positive, vote for this budget and deliver for our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Pink.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I like to speak in favour of this budget, and particularly the areas in which we do most to help working people in our city and tackle poverty. This is a subject which means a lot to me, as I see the impact of poverty all too often in the community I both live in and I'm proud to represent. And I see it in the work I do now, helping to teach people on low income how to cook on the budget at St Martin's Housing Trust, and also working there as a cook too. As someone who has once faced homelessness and know very much the difference which access to council housing can make, I'm very pleased that this budget will see our council build hundreds of new homes and invest millions to upgrade our current properties. It will also keep providing and investing in these services. We need to tackle homelessness. The two are always linked. This council, through the planning function, has been bold and brave to vote for specialist housing across Norwich, which tackles homelessness and gives people more than just a roof over their head. It has changed lives. I'd also like to talk about the real living wage. For the first time in my working life, when I left private rental sector and started working at St Martin's, I began to earn the real living wage. This council has led on the real living wage, and now thousands of fellow Norwich workers get it. This is a practical outcome.
Could I ask you to draw to a close?
Champion working people and making the case to businesses why they need to pay it. So tonight I'm speaking as someone who really knows what a difference Labour can make and what this budget will make for if we vote for it tonight. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Calvert, I think you indicated. Councillor Worley, you indicated. You would like to as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's the beards, must be. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. And I'd also like to echo my colleagues by thanking the administration for accepting amendments to the budget from across the chamber. And as a result, I am also happy to support this budget this evening. As the Labour administration are clearly now more open to working collaboratively, I do wonder whether we should expect more involvement from evening news journalists in the policy and decision making of this council. Whilst I'm, of course, very pleased to hear and see of the additional provision in the budget for green spaces across the city, something we can all agree is a positive step, my appeasement is somewhat marred by the fact that it feels this last-minute addition by Cabinet only came about as a result of a rather embarrassing story published in the Evening News in the evening on the back of an FOI request, which discovered that 940,000 of the £940,000 of Section 106 money collected over the last 5 years, 926,000 of it remained unspent until that story broke. It's scandalous that this council has sat on almost £1 million, which could have been invested in improving our fine city for the benefit of residents, and it took for a news story to spark the Labour administration into action.
Could I ask people not to shout out, please, and give people who are speaking the courtesy? But we will just let you finish. Thank you.
I'm quoting these figures from the Freedom of Information Act request, so I don't think it is a lie. And I agree with Councillor Galvin that whilst I'm happy to support this budget, our residents deserve better from their council, and I hope the administration takes this embarrassment as a chance to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Calvert, were you indicating that you did want to speak? Yes. I'll take Councillor Calvert, and then I'll go to Councillor Driver. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make one point about the finances. I think it's worth pointing out that while we make comparisons in this chamber with other councils across the country, we talk about Tory councils who are going bankrupt, we talk about Labour councils which are going bankrupt. But at no point can we really blame those administrations any more than we can pat ourselves on the back. The reason those administrations have had to file 114, Section 114 notices, is because they're responsible for adult social care and children's services. Are we amazing at managing our finances? No, we're just extremely fortunate that we're not lumbered or responsible for, depending on how you want to take that, for the adult social care and children's services. These are the things that make other councils difficulty, and we are fortunate, and I want to say we risk complacency if we pat ourselves on the back for avoiding those pitfalls which are not given to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Driver.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I wasn't going to speak. I realised I was the only Labour person not to speak. So I thought I'd better say something. I'm a bit cheesed off a bit. I can understand what everyone's saying, all good speeches tonight, but the 2 or 3 digs were coming from the Green Party about their community. I don't know what you do in your wards, but I go out and knock on people's doors and I have a consultation 365 days a year. I'm sorry, I ain't going to do it this year. That'll be 366 because it's a leap year. And we actually told these people what's coming up at council and what their thoughts on their bits and pieces of what they would like. This week, you know, Lucy was talking about the 100,000 spent on Norwich and the environment and people going around and the services and it's in a mess. I had 4 or 5 people from Norwood Green phone me up, praising the work Norwich City Council had done, asked me to thank Councillor Parr, Officer Parr, who's taken charge of that department recently, and to thank him personally and everything like this. You don't see these in the evening news. What you see in the evening news is bits and pieces what who's in the Green Party are put in there to say, oh look, it's another breakfast. Pick it up and clean it up yourself. I mean, we can't all just rely and spend money for the City Council. You can apply to the City Council will clean up. The stuff that's stopping councils go around doing little bits and help their community, or even help their community go out and do their work. One of the best people used to do it was the Liberal Voice leader of this City Council, Howard Cook, who was in Lancashire. That took ages trying to get rid of him in Lancashire. Because he was a very good councillor. As simple as that. His policies may have been a bit wrong, but he was a good local councillor. And I think we should never have a go at other councillors if they're really good councillors. Go there and speak to the constituency. Stop complaining what the administration are doing with their consultation. Look, well, someone just announced tonight there's a consultation going out in 3 months' time. Let everyone know it's going out in 3 months' time. They'll be ready for it when it comes.
Thank you, Councillor Driver. Now I hesitate to ask, but is there anybody else who wants to say something and feels that they've been left out? Thank you. So, and you don't get a second chance. Thank you very much. So, Councillor Kendrick, would you like to respond?
Well, obviously, given that everyone seems to be likely to vote, there is a temptation, obviously, to quit while one is ahead. But I think I do need to actually challenge a couple of things that the last two Greens spoke. So, as Councillor Giles is actually very much involved in the parks thing, and it certainly isn't anything to do with the EDP or any other newspaper that those projects have gone ahead. And as for the other question, it's only a local authorities with social services responsibilities that are financial true. That simply is not true. Hastings Borough Council, which I know well, because I actually serve them, is in severe financial trouble, and they are by no means the only district council in that situation. Now, at the end of the day, I've been, the last hour and a half, I've been thinking about my colleagues in other Labour authorities who do my job as finance spokesman in places like Bradford, Middlesbrough, and I could go on a long list, how they would be only too overjoyed just to face criticism on the usual tropes from an opposition party. Oh, you're not doing enough, do more. Well, of course, we all know that with the Conservative government and the financial austerity we are under, we can't do that. And also complaints about the consultation process and other process matters. Yeah, well, most other councils are in serious financial trouble and make serious cuts. I actually turned my attention to Birmingham City Council, who is actually making their budget tonight. The resources spokesman there is a lady called Councillor B. Jones, Councillor Bridget Jones, I should say, in her case. Well, she's going before her council tonight to say that the council tax will go up by 10%. There will be 600 compulsory job losses, and there will be a massive fire sale of all the council's assets, including their artwork. So those poor gentlemen who are in Birmingham on the side saying for sale, best offer accepted. And finally, to quote Councillor Price and one of the other Green councillors who sort of suggesting that somehow we've been lucky over the last few years. Well, that's a bit like the man who goes back to his wife, yet again having lost money at the betting shop, and says, you know what, the bookies got lucky again last night.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kendrick. So we'll now move to the recorded vote on all recommendations and those contained within the amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'm going to call all members' names in alphabetical order, and may ask members to respond either for the proposal, against, or whether they are abstaining. Okay? Councillor Ackroyd. For. Thank you. Councillor Calvert. For. Thank you. Councillor Carrington.
For.
Councillor Catt.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Champion.
For.
Councillor Davis. For. Thank you. Councillor Driver.
For.
Councillor Everett.
For.
Councillor Fox.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Francis.
For.
Councillor Fulton McAllister. For. Thank you. Councillor Galvin.
For.
Councillor Giles.
For.
Councillor Hamilton. For. Councillor Haynes has sent apologies. Councillor Herkner.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Huntley.
For.
Councillor Jones. For. Councillor Kendrick.
For.
Councillor Kidman.
For.
Councillor Lubbock. For. Councillor Maguire.
For.
Councillor Oliver. For. Councillor Osborne.
For.
Councillor Packer.
For.
Councillor Padder. For. Councillor Peake.
For.
Councillor Price. For. Councillor Prinsley.
For.
Councillor Mike Sands.
For.
Councillor Sue Sands. Thank you.
Councillor
Councillor Schmierer.
For.
Sorry, Councillor Price, was there a problem?
That would not have been recorded. The public would not have heard those because they didn't use their mic to shout.
Fine. I'll give a sum up when I finish, Councillor Price. Thank you. Councillor Stonnard.
For.
Councillor Stutley.
For.
Councillor Vaughan Thomas.
For.
Councillor Vivian Thomas.
For.
Councillor Warney.
For.
Councillor Wright is absent, so it's Councillor Young.
For?
That is 37 votes in favour of the motion.
Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. I think we can safely say that everybody's voted in favour and it's the end of the meeting. Thank you very much and you may go home. Thank you.